Creativity is very interesting because a lot of people feel that it's given to just a few. To me, that's such a stupid concept. Each of us is creative, and that's a part of us that is able to take an idea, a possibility from the realms of nowhere and bring it on this plane that we live, to put something on this earth that becomes immortal. That's our creativity. That's our gift. Inspiration came daily and constantly through the environment that I lived in. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Some people would refer to it as a ghetto. But again, you have to realize that I was always different or creative. I saw inspiration in places where I suppose a lot of people wouldn't, because I didn't see things as they were. I saw the beauty that it could be. My mother is from Whiteville, Tennessee, and my father is from Bolton, Mississippi. The values of my household were totally Southern. So they were very nurturing and very protective of their children, because at that time and where they had come from, life and the struggle for African Americans were extremely difficult. Their inspiration primarily came through the church. And inside the church, we were spiritually enriched, but we also were creatively driven. There were teachers who would always tell me that I was something different. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I was always trying to find out what I was doing in this world. I knew how to create in my head. I didn't know how to transition it to paper very well. What I had the ability to do was spin a great story. My father was a huge storyteller, and we were raised on Dad's stories. And so I think I inherited a lot of that. So when I entered college while in school, and I became an editor for Sears. And while at Sears, I met a gentleman who kept talking to me about the lack of African Americans in advertising. I had never thought about advertising. He felt that my ability to storytell really would lend itself very well to advertising. So he introduced me to this gentleman named Bill Sharp. Bill Sharp was a copy supervisor at J. Walter Thompson, and he invited me to come and audit what he called the basic advertising class. And so at the end of auditing the class, he worked with me to develop a portfolio. I interviewed at J. Walter Thompson and Leo Burnett, but Leo Burnett offered me a little more money, and that was really a key motivator. So I went to Leo Burnett. I remember going into Burnett and trying to figure out how in God's name that Carol Henny Williams from the south side of Chicago end up with a job at Leo Burnett. It was a bit frightening. And when you enter that environment as a 19-year-old Black female, you don't see yourself anywhere. You are strictly alone. And so getting stabilized and finding your way through this environment and trying to find the courage to move forward in it is a tough thing in and of itself. And to me, coming out of the spirituality of Grant Memorial Church, God had just blessed me. That's the way I looked at it. And I wasn't going to fetter that blessing away. So as afraid as I was, I put on my bravery hat and I moved forward. So I went in search of my group. And when I found them, they were in this man's office named Jim Gilmore. Jim was my copy supervisor. And I stood in the doorway and staring in the office of a room full of white males. And I said, I'm Carol Williams, I'm the new writer. He said, well, come on in. And I was very, very happy because I didn't know what was going to come out of his mouth. And they were working on an assignment. Pillsbury wanted to introduce the consumption of biscuits in the morning. I'm thinking, we eat biscuits every morning. What are you all talking about? I thought it was the strangest thing I ever heard, but apparently people at that time consumed most of their biscuits at dinner.
The table's set, you're all set. So it's time to bake the dinner rolls. New Pillsbury Quick Refrigerated Dinner Rolls.
And the name of the line of biscuits, as I could remember, was Pillsbury's Best. And I sat there with that idea of nothing's quite as good as biscuits in the morning in my head. And then I wrote, it's Pillsbury's best time of day. And I took it back upstairs to Jim, and I told him, well, I have a line here. Do you want to look at it? And he said, okay. And then he looked at the paper, and I'll never forget, he stared at the paper, and then he looked at me, and then he looked back at the paper, and then he looked at me, and he said, that's a good line. And he said, we're taking this to the creative review meeting. I said, okay. The next day after the creative review meeting, they came to my office on the 13th floor and said, they bought your line. And that was the beginning of my career at Burnett. So after doing that campaign, Pillsbury had a new technology where you crack the can on the counter and the dough would rise out of it. And so I created the campaign, wrote the campaign, Say Hello to Poppin' Fresh.
Say hello to Poppin' Fresh dough. It's such a nice feeling to make something fresh.
Poppin' Fresh Danish rolls.
I did a campaign called The Little Girl with Big Ideas, which was the introduction of Poppy. And she represented the sweet products because she was a sweet little thing. And it was very successful. But while I was at Burnett, I was able to write campaigns for Kleenex, Green Giant, Kentucky Fried Chicken, just did a ton of stuff. And then one of my beloved bosses, I love Charlie. Charlie Blakemore was one of the greatest teachers and mentors. Charlie then gave me a secret antiperspirant to work on. The advertising was some woman shot in slow motion with a voile floaty dress on, running through the sunlit leaves. And I'm looking at these women, and I'm thinking, who are those women? The women I see, they're hardworking, picking up kids, they're picking up garbage, they're washing clothes, they're cleaning up yards, and they sweat. These women are strong women in need of an efficacious antiperspirant. And so we start having a discussion about a strong woman. Strong enough for a man, but made for a woman. That concept was foreign to a lot of men. Secret Antiperspirant introduced the first all-black cast in which there was a black female lead ever that went on that TV.
Alan, hurry up. We're going to be late.
Relax, Dad. My wedding's 4 hours away.
4 hours? I got to finish dressing.
Okay. Just let me get my secret first.
Use mine. We'll both need something strong today.
No, thanks. I need my secret.
Oh, Dad's spray isn't good enough for you.
Daddy's secret roll-on works better than yours.
Are you going to have 2 antiperspirants even after you're married?
Absolutely. Secret really helps keep me dry, even when we walk down the aisle.
Don't remind me. Hey, but if it's that good, I'll try it.
It's for women. Smell.
Pretty.
Not like a guy.
But if...
Sorry, Dad, but don't think of it as losing my secret. Think of it as gaining a bathroom.
Secret strong enough for a man.
But made for a woman.
Everything on the air now, almost when it comes to women, is about strong, beauty and strong. That was the door. I produce quality and quantity. And that quantity resonated with the market and constantly increased that bottom line. And as a result of it, my feminism went away. The color of my skin went away. The only thing that mattered was that I could produce a winning product. I went from an intern to a vice president in 7 years. One day, my phone rang, and I picked it up, and it was a receptionist. She said, "Your mother and father in the lobby." My mother and father? My mother and father didn't even go downtown to shop. So I walked out to the lobby, and I got my mother and father. And my mother was just wide-eyed. And I took them to my office, and they sat down very quietly. And they were just looking. They wanted to come and make sure I was doing what I said I was doing. And my father sat there about 2 more minutes, and they got up. He said, that girl, that girl. That was a most meaningful experience that happened in my life. The enlightenment that happened in that moment, that you were able to give that gift to your parents, given where they had come from. You know, creative people are adventuresome people. And there was some point in my life I just started feeling I was born here, I grew up here, I went to school here, I worked here. I don't want to die here. And so I accepted a job for Conan Belding in San Francisco. While there, I met a man. He was a doctor. I fell in love with him, and we got married. And so I became a doctor's wife, and I had a kid. But my old clients kept knocking on the door saying, can you do this? Can you do that? And all of a sudden, my husband showed up and said, you cannot continue to do all this business at home. Let's go find your office. And it evolved into a full-blown business. Carol H. Williams Advertising, early years, we were doing new products for Clorox. We were doing Pac Bell, and we were doing Armadale. As we had successes with those clients, we began working with Coors, Disney, Procter & Gamble, General Motors, U.S. Army, Allstate. I mean, it's just been fabulous. The importance of advertising cannot be understated. It's a study of humankind. But what is more important to understand, that every aspect of our society is touched by advertising. So my recommendation is step up and get in it. Incredible journey.